Clicking through stories you wouldn't believe. Cold case trails and courtroom scenes. Whispers from the grave and media dreams. Truth is stranger, hearts beat faster. In the shadows of a news disaster. Scrolling deep where secrets hide. You found the stories time won't deny. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods clubs to breaking news lines, you shine a light where the silence lies. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Small town rumors and urban fear, a voice for the lost who can't speak here. Through every name, through every case, you hold the truth in a steady place. Cameras roll but justice lingers. Truth unravels through careful fingers. You tell the story, speak their names in a world that's quick to look away. Headstones and headlines, the tales collide. Justice and mystery, side by side. From backwoods crimes to great night trials, you trace the echoes through every mile. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Some run from the dark, you walk right in with a question and a camera lens. It's not just a crime, it's the lives they led. The voice is still talking from the books unread. Headstones and headlines, the veil is thin. Truth gets louder when you begin. With every view, with every line, you bring the forgotten back to life. Oh, headstones and headlines, you dig where the truth won't die. Yeah, headstones and headlines, you tell the stories that time can't hide.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. I hope everyone is doing well today. 1 second, please. So I apologize for the time change. Many of you know that my grandpa is 102 years old and he's still living on his own. And he had a little accident this morning at home, but he is okay. He is home, and we just had to, my parents weren't home, so I had my nephew again, so we hung out this afternoon. But I'm glad to be here because we are slowly moving our way through the book Unfvck Yourself. And today, I did see Pookie had asked, what are we going to learn today? We are going to learn Chapter 5 is I Embrace the Uncertainty. And Chapter 6 is I Am Not My Thoughts, I Am... Give me 1 second, please. I don't mean to laugh, but my cat Batty is... She wants in the attic, and I told her to stop, and she came over, and she's back over there crying. So give me 1 second. I need to let her upstairs. All right, sorry about that. Good grief. She didn't go up all day, so she's probably, Anyways, so where were we? So I had said Chapter 5 is I embrace the uncertainty. And chapter 6 is I am not my thoughts, I am what I do. For those of you who may have missed yesterday, I would definitely go back and listen. That was I am wired to win and I got this, which I can relate to. I got this because I tend to tell myself that a lot. Like, you got this, Em. You can do it. All right. So I did see Sinner was here, Pookie, anyone in the bushes. I don't see anyone else. Thanks for being here. I do appreciate it. All right. So we are going to get started. All right. So chapter 5. Actually, let me just... There we go. All right, so chapter 5, I embrace the uncertainty. Uncertainty is where new happens. You're an addict. You're out of control and so dependent on your drug of choice, you don't even realize how it's affecting your life. You have a gnawing craving, and that craving is for prediction. Will it rain tomorrow? How will my stock perform? Who will win the Super Bowl? You're constantly looking ahead, trying to figure out what's going to happen before it actually does. Why? Certainty. We seek the certain and avoid the uncertain. We want to know what to expect, where to go, and what to wear. We want to be prepared. We want to be safe. It's far beyond a want, though. It's more like that addiction. We're sizing people up before we even know them, predicting their character in seconds. We buy goods and brand names we're used to, even though there are plenty of alternatives. We take supplements and vitamins to prevent an illness we don't have yet, date people for months, sometimes years, to make sure of our future, to make sure that it turns out in a way that we can predict. Give me that certainty, certainty, certainty. Hi, Good Trouble. Thanks for being here. We all know the bumper stickers and internet memes that praise risk takers and urge us to embrace uncertainty. We even know that our openness to taking risks directly correlates with our potential for fortune and possibility, yet many of us still stay inside our own little organized certain world. And there is a reason for that. Until fairly recently, the world was a much scarier place for the likes of you and I. Every step into the unknown was a dance with death. Life was one big game of Russian roulette. Literally every day, you and every other being on the face of the earth would have been an entree on the dinner menu for an assortment of beasts and creatures, or among the poor suckers that walked blindly into the path of Mother Nature's dark sense of humor. Lucky for us, the world isn't nearly as scary as it was thousands of years ago, although not quite a utopian safe zone. Life has become much safer. Unbelievably so, in fact. Medicine and technology get better by the day. Violent crime, although rampant in our news outlets, is in fact a rarity in the everyday life of your average citizen in a Western country. Sure, there are still deadly diseases and the threat of random acts of violence or catastrophe, but the chances of you catching a mystery zombie virus or being swept up with Dorothy and Toto to a fantastical Hollywood dreamland are, I'm happy to say, slim. Here's some other startling news. Chances are you're not going to suddenly die on the way to the grocery store. Your boss isn't actually going to kill you if you ask for a raise. And believe it or not, asking someone out will not result in your pants mysteriously falling to the floor, painfully exposing your SpongeBob SquarePants underwear, and bringing about your early demise via acute terminal embarrassment with the insidious laughter of everyone in Starbucks ringing in your ears as you depart this mortal coil. In other words, our aversion to risk, which was once necessary, is no longer. Those same survival instincts that once kept us alive can now be the very thing that keeps us from actually living. A paradigm of potential. Our obsession with certainty can be tragic and counterproductive for two reasons. First, uncertainty is where things happen. Uncertainty is your personal pathway to opportunity. It's the environment in which you grow, experience new things, and produce new, unprecedented results. Uncertainty is where new happens. The desire for safety stands against every great and noble enterprise. Tacitus. When you stick to what you're comfortable with, doing the same things you've always done, you're in effect living in the past, not moving forward. You're repeating things and behaviors that at one time in your life were risky since you didn't know what they would lead to, but have since turned into routine. Think about it. How can you go to new places if you never leave the house? How can you make friends and start romances without meeting new people? How can you do anything new by doing what you've always done? You can't. The truth is, you can't even predict what the people you know will do, let alone the people you don't know. Whether it's the checkout line or a nightclub or the bank, social situations are inevitably filled with uncertainty. Geez, half of the time you can't even predict your own thoughts and feelings. Think of the many times you've rushed to judge and then later changed your mind. How will you ever get a raise if you don't take the risk of asking? How will you get ahead in your career if you're always holding on to certainty and comfort? You won't. Success is never certain. It never comes without risk. Even if you're the smartest or the hardest working, there's no guarantee of anything. The people who go on to do great things in their lives know this. They also embrace it. So, the one thing that kind of stuck out to me, I didn't want to stop right away, but he said that when you stick to what you're comfortable with, doing the same things you've always done, you're in effect living in the past, not moving forward. Which, I mean, routine, especially for me, routine is needed. Like, I need structure, I need routine, well, like he said, I need to know what's going to happen. Like, I need to plan. I'm not someone who can necessarily spontaneously go do something just because I'm like, hey, let's go do this. So that's interesting. And a side note, the one thing I kept thinking about that we had talked about the first day. So I think it was chapter 2. And I don't think, here it is. Every time you add the but to the end of that statement, you turn yourself into the victim. I kept thinking about that. That's one thing that has stayed with me since we started reading this. The other thing was, and I have to look this one up because I don't remember the exact way it was said, but make the time to take your time. That was the other thing that I thought about a lot the past few days. Just seemingly simple phrases that mean a lot. All right. Where did I leave off? Here we go. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Theodore Roosevelt. I'm going to read that one again because I screwed it up. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Reflect on that Teddy Roosevelt quote for a minute here. Missing the target isn't the worst thing you can do. Not taking the shot is. So Good Trouble says, I speed because I don't like to waste a moment. Maybe I need to give myself more time. And, what if you got pulled over, right, for speeding, and now even more time is seemingly wasted? I think about that. I always think about that now as I'm older. You're on the highway and someone, or not even the highway, but like there's people here who pass on a double line in a school zone, mind you. And I think, why? There's a stop sign like 500 feet in front of us. Are you really going to get that much further faster? Probably not. So I have to think about it too, because, I hate to be late. So I'm always, rushing to make sure I'm on time. Hey, Caudle, thanks for being here. You may look at successful people and think they've always had it figured out. Many of them seem to have a kind of confidence, charisma, or talent that makes everything they do seem easy. They certainly seem to have something you don't, but believe me, their rise to the top was anything but certain or easy. Most of them doubted it every single day, sometimes hundreds of times per day. That's right, they sat there, just like you are right now, wondering how they would make it, whether it was all worthwhile or whether they had what it takes. There were days when they doubted what they were doing, where they thought, this is never going to work. Many found themselves on the verge of giving up at numerous occasions along the way. They didn't succeed because they were certain they were going to succeed. They succeeded because they didn't let uncertainty stop them. They did it anyway. They ignored their doubts and kept pushing forward. They were relentless when the only thing they had to fuel them was relentlessness. That's a powerful quote too. Hey, Lacey, I'm going to read that again. They were relentless when the only thing they had to fuel them was relentlessness. Give some thought to all the people who have achieved something great, only to quickly fade into obscurity. I'm sure you can think of a few, whether they're entertainers or business people or athletes. In my career, I've coached many, quote, successful people who came to me because their lives had gone flat and they had become uninspired and tepid. What happened? For many of them, they got comfortable. For years, they had pushed their comfort zones to get where they wanted to be. But as soon as they chose certainty over uncertainty, they stopped achieving. They hit the wall. Did anyone see the Moms vs. Octopus encounter? I have not. Why does it happen? Because when you've accomplished one of your goals, when you're rich and successful, the future naturally seems a little more certain. I'm sure we'd all feel a little more secure with $1 million or so in the bank. That is true. Hey, Nanny, thanks for being here. And there's a lot of, the one thing when he mentioned, the people who achieve something great only to quickly fade into obscurity, I think of like the one-hit wonders, or I'm trying to think of someone else who kind of was super successful and then just kind of fell to the wayside. I'm sure there's many. I'm having a brain fog here, but I think of like one-hit wonders. And speaking of one-hit wonders, not that they were a one-hit wonder, but I've been seeing a lot of videos of Aqua. Do y'all remember Aqua? Aqua and Ace of Base. They've been showing up in my shorts feeds. So, I think of them. They weren't one-hit wonders, but they kind of just, floated away into obscurity. Why does it happen? Because when you've accomplished one of your goals, I already read that part. I'm going to read it again. Why does it happen? Because when you've accomplished one of your goals, when you're rich and successful, the future naturally seems a little more certain. I'm sure we'd all feel a little more secure with $1 million or so in the bank. But that mindset shift is exactly what creates the environment for our ultimate undoing. When we're no longer uncertain about money, the desire, the need even, to pursue it recedes. When we're no longer uncertain about success, our ambition can blunt or mellow. We get to wallow in our bloated illusion of certainty. Eventually, we get to do that thing called settle. We settle for certainty. That's the kind of power that uncertainty has on our lives. It can make us or break us. It can make us rich or make us poor. It can be the key to our success or drive us in the other direction. For many people, it ends up being both. I'm seeing a sign. I believe in the universe, and speaking of signs, so there's this one intersection a few towns away from me, and the road sucks. Like if you go straight, it sucks. But if you turn left to kind of get away from the part that sucks, the other way also sucks. So one just sucks more than the other. So I always say to myself, if the light is green, when I get there, I'll go straight. But if the light is red, I'm going to turn left and go that way. It's bizarre. I don't know why I do it, but I do. I guess it's because I have to stop anyway, so I might as well just turn left and then go that way. But I don't know, the things we do. Chasing what doesn't exist. The funny thing is, no matter how much you chase certainty, you'll never really be able to hold it or retain it. That's because it doesn't exist. The universe will what? Come on. Is this book listening to me? All right, let me reread, because I saw the word universe and I was like, whoa. The funny thing is, no matter how much you chase certainty, you'll never really be able to hold it or retain it. That's because it doesn't exist. The universe will always send us little reminders of its chaos and power, and no one is exempt from the prompting. Nothing is certain. You could go to sleep tonight and never wake up. You could get in your car and never make it to work. Certainty is a complete illusion, voodoo. Some of you might find this terrible to think about, but it's true. No matter how hard we may try, we can never predict exactly what life will bring. Our plans will falter at some point eventually. By running from uncertainty in search of certainty, we're actually rejecting the one thing in life that is guaranteed in favor of something that's nothing more than a fantasy. I'm going to read that again. By running from uncertainty in search of certainty, we're actually rejecting the one thing in life that is guaranteed in favor of something that's nothing more than a fantasy. All I know, Socrates once said, is that I know nothing. Many wise people understand this. In fact, they owe their wisdom to that very realization, that they don't actually know a damn thing. Because when we think we know everything, we inadvertently turn ourselves away from the unknown, and by default, whole new realms of success. The person who accepts how unpredictable and uncertain life is has no choice but to embrace it. They're not afraid of the uncertain. It's just a part of life. They don't seek out certainty because they know it doesn't really exist. They are also the kind of people who are aware of and open to the real magic and miracles of life and what can be accomplished. One of the pillars of philosophy is the examination of how we know what we know. How can we prove that what we believe is true? In most cases, we can't. In reality, even many of the things we think of as hard facts aren't. They're half-truths. They're assumptions. They're misinterpretations. They're guesses. They're based on cognitive biases, faulty information, and or conditioning. Use science as an example. What we believed 5, 10, or 20 years ago has since been disproved. We have made radical leaps in understanding, and those leaps are continuing every day. What we know today will one day be looked upon as archaic and outdated. Consider those same limits of understanding are everywhere in your life. And that is so true because just technology. When I was in high school, we didn't have cell phones. Most of us didn't even have computers because they were too expensive. I think it was high school. Well, maybe it was like 7th or 8th grade when we got a computer, and it was like those big boxy ones with the CD-ROM drives, or even before that, the floppy disks. Oh my gosh. Who would have thought that we would have cell phones where you can instantaneously get information, or you can ask Google or Alexa or Bing or Siri. It's true. Like you never know what is going to actually happen. You can assume or think but we don't really know anything. Oh, really, Nanny? You use them in college? Yeah, I think laptops, I did have a laptop in college, but it was like very bulky and heavy. Nothing like we have today, but I mean, ICQ, that was like the archaic version of, Discord or Snapchat, TikTok. I mean, who would have thought? Certainly not me. If we can't even be certain about what we know today, how can we know what will happen tomorrow? As you've probably noticed, when you do try to stay in your comfort zone, you never truly feel comfortable. There's always that nagging feeling that you could be doing more. There's always that desire for a life that's better than the one you have now. The more we try to stay comfortable today, the more uncomfortable we'll be tomorrow. There really is no destination. There is only exploring, exploring, and exploring. If you want to win, you have to be willing to be judged by others. Well, isn't that the quote? Okay, Lacey, we got computers in school my last year of high school. Well, you have to be then my age because I don't remember going to like a computer lab or anything in school until I was in high school. And I started high school, it would have been 92. Okay, yeah, you're not that much older than me. I'm 47. Step forward and be judged. Like plenty of other things in our lives, part of our aversion to uncertainty comes from our fear of being judged by others. We are, in a very real way, afraid of what the tribe thinks and the prospect of being thrown out into the mystery and uncertainty of the wild. If we put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, maybe we'll look awkward. People will think we're weird. If we push our limits and try to achieve new things, maybe we'll fail. People will think we're a failure. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Epictetus. You're never going... Wow, there's a lot of typos in this book. You're never going to achieve your true potential if you're hooked by what other people think. In fact, you could change your life overnight if you simply abandon the notion that other people's opinions matter. Give me 1 second. I need to make a note there. They forgot the word to. They forgot the word that in a previous chapter. Okay. In fact, you could change your life overnight if you simply abandon the notion that other people's opinions matter. Life goes on, opinion heavy or opinion light. That doesn't mean you should go off and become a brazen sociopath and completely disregard what others think. But if you want to win, you have to be willing to be judged by others and not let it get to you. If you want to do something truly great, you'll have to accept that some people are going to think you're delusional or an idiot or righteous. The person who avoids the uncertain doesn't do this. They're too afraid of being judged. They're too afraid to look foolish or stupid. They are stopped, one foot nailed to the floor, by an illusion. Lacey says, I'm 54 in journalism. We had computers, but we learned to type on word processors. Oh, word processors, yeah. Or typewriters. I think like lower, like middle school, we actually had the typewriters that we practiced on. Yeah, Nanny, we used our minds to be creative and just, writing notes instead of writing, now you just send a text message, whereas, high school, you wrote the note, and then we had like these special ways to fold it. Like in a square, you could fold it into a small square, or you could make it into a triangle, depending on how you folded it. And then you would put it in people's lockers on your way to class. I mean, it's just, I kind of miss that. You know what I mean? Like things are less personal, I guess. World Book encyclopedias were the old internet, right? I remember my grandma having those. And, and I just think there's got to be a museum for all of the retired World Book encyclopedias. Like, where do they go? Where do they go? Cuddle says, I don't feel old, but I feel like my youth is gone. That's interesting. So certainty is an illusion. That's what we just learned. Embracing the uncertain. This can all come as quite a shock. Some of you are probably squirming in your chair as you read this. That's because you're rejecting and avoiding uncertainty. You're afraid of it. You're trying to control and know things that you simply can't know or control. You're caught up the la la land that we are. Okay, this doesn't make sense. Let me read this again the way it's written. You're caught up the la la land that we are all born into and can never quite seem to get out of. See, I think there's a word missing. Maybe it's just me, but I think they're missing the word in. You're caught up in the la la land that we are all born into and can never quite seem to get out of. The good news is it doesn't have to be that way. That's why I want you to shift your thinking. Embrace the uncertainty. That's your personal assertion. I embrace the uncertainty. So far we have, what was the first one? I am willing. We have, I am wired to win. I got this. And our fourth is I embrace the uncertainty. Meet it head on. Cherish it. Enjoy it. Remember, all of the successes, all of the experiences, all of the things you've always dreamed of are waiting for you in uncertainty. Once you accept this, it's not as scary as before. Sure, you might still be nervous about what will happen, but you'll also be hopeful and excited as the prospect of what may come. While the unknown can hold plenty of bad things, it also holds everything good as well. It's overflowing with opportunity and progress. I challenge you to go out today and take the bull by the horns and embrace your own uncertainty. Do things you normally wouldn't. Shake up that daily routine. Dare to dream, dare to risk, and startle your life into life. Start with simple things. Take a different route to work. Instead of bringing your lunch or eating at the same few places, try somewhere you've never been. Start a conversation with the waiter or cashier. Smile and say hello to the people you pass on the street. or give them a friendly nod. Talk to that girl or guy who caught your eye. Or maybe you're a natural extrovert who does all of that already. What are the things that make you uncomfortable? What are the things you'd like to do but avoid because of uncertainty? Hey, Cocoa Puff, thanks for being here. Do them, starting now. There's no better time than this moment. Develop and grow that muscle to be with the uncertain in life, to be with the glory of life itself, unconstrained by your own limits and opinions. Don't stop there. Instead of simply stretching our comfort zones, let's blow the thing up completely. Try acting in a way you'd never think about acting. Doing something completely out of character would be a great start. Embrace that uncertainty and strike a blow for your future. What the heck? Did you guys hear me reading? How did that get muted? I didn't click on anything. But I went to talk and I saw you are muted. Hopefully y'all heard me reading that. So Nanny says, I try and teach my grandson to be creative. You make things. He loves the outdoors. Yeah. Treble says, I've seen a lot of craft projects using them. Oh, the encyclopedias? Really? I'll have to check that out. Love to build and make things. Okay, you heard. Okay, perfect. Nanny says, I used to be spontaneous, not so much anymore. Yeah, there's sometimes, like, if I don't have to be somewhere, like, going to work, I'm only taking one way, and that's the short way. Because I'm always late. I'm always running late. I'm always rushing in the morning because I can't wake up when my alarm goes off. But sometimes, like, if I have an appointment, an hour away, I might take the scenic route home. Less traffic, But yeah, I think it's true. Like, you get comfortable with your routine, like, you know what to expect. But this is saying, just because you know what's happened in the past doesn't mean it's going to happen every time in the future. Lots to think about. Opportunity hunting. Embracing uncertainty has the power to transform your life, from your personal relationships to your career. It can help you get in shape, make more money, or find your future spouse. You'll no longer be hiding from life. You'll be living it, drinking from it, and enlivened by it. When you stop searching for certainty, when you quit trying to make sense of everything, a lot of your stress will simply melt away. There's really nothing to figure out. If you took the time to be with what I'm saying, you'd realize that what causes most of your worry is trying to predict the future and then refusing to accept things when they don't or aren't going to go your way. What? Let me read that again. If you took the time to be with what I'm saying, you'd realize that what causes most of your worry is trying to predict the future and then refusing to accept things when they don't or aren't going your way. Never looked at it that way. Life is an adventure. It's absolutely filled with opportunity, but it's up to you to embrace those opportunities fully and completely in all of their majestic, unnerving, and invigorating uncertainty. Focus on the things you can control and release yourself from worrying about what you can't, like the weather, the Dow Jones, or what your neighbor thinks about your haircut. I embrace the uncertainty. This one simple statement can completely change the way you live, moment to moment to moment. The only thing that's guaranteed in life is that it's uncertain. The only thing we know is that we know nothing. Go ahead, say it, embrace it. I embrace the uncertainty. End of chapter 5. And then actually, that last thing that, not being able to control certain things, I saw this this short yesterday where this girl she was overweight and she wanted to get in shape because she felt that her being big took away from who she was. And as she was talking, she said, I'm the only one who cared about my bigness. The people who loved me only cared about that I was happy. They cared about the way I laugh, the way I tell stories, the way that I'm a hard worker, that I love animals. And that's true. It's so true. Because, like my family, they don't care that I'm overweight. They don't care that, I look a certain way. I mean, it's kind of, I feel like we put the pressure on ourselves the most. Nanny says, I used to worry about everything. Now that I'm older, I'm content with things that bring me peace. See, I worry about I always have anxiety. And it's silly because I have anxiety about things that I cannot control. And, like we learned in the last book, we get anxiety. So we have anxiety and then we get more anxiety because we're anxious, which makes us more anxious. And I have to just start letting things go because I can't control it. Am I OCD? Yes and no. Yes and no. Like when I think of OCD, I think of like the people who have to like tap their door 7 times before they leave, or, make sure that every door is shut before bed, things like that. I have to have things a certain way. And if they are not, it stresses me out. I get really frustrated really quick. There was, I think maybe it was winter time. I had a closet organizer that needed to be fixed, but I wanted to figure out what I wanted because I had like the old, they're like the white wire organizers, and one part of it had broke because I had too many clothes on it. So I put, it fell again, and I tried to fix it. It wouldn't fix. It just kept falling. And I got so frustrated that I just broke down. I broke down. And instead of just saying, okay, the thing broke, calm down, and you'll figure it out. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Cardle says, I think anxiety is weight related. I have to disagree because when I was in high school, I was much thinner. And I think my anxiety was worse then. And when I was in high school, I had less to worry about when you think about it. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really have to worry about anything as a kid. Nanny says, my son gets anxious when things don't go as smooth. And that's kind of like me with the closet. Like, I just wanted it. I wanted it to be fixed. And so I didn't have to replace it. And then it just completely fell. But now I have I just used, instead of the plastic the plastic wire stuff, I just got 2 big steel rods, and now it can hold a whole lot of clothes on them. Those puppies aren't going to go anywhere. Hey, Women's Warrior, thanks for being here. All right, chapter 6. And we have a lot of time. All right, chapter 6. I am not my thoughts. I am what I do. You are not defined by what's inside your head. You are what you do, your actions. Change your thoughts, change your life. I was scrolling through Facebook recently when I came across this little gem. It had more likes than Justin Bieber and comments up the yin yang. As I sat there in my crimson, let me restart that. Okay. As I sat there in my crimson smoking jacket and pale yellow cravat, I've never seen that word before. Cravat? Hold on, I need to look that up. I've never seen that word before. Cravat, a short, wide strip of fabric worn by men around the neck and tucked inside an open... So like a tie? Oh, I see. It's more... There's more fabric than a tie. So kind of like the... Like colonial, I guess, like colonial times. I've never seen that word before. Cravat. Cravat. Okay, I had to learn how to pronounce it. Cravat. Okay, we got it. I learned a new word today. As I sat there in my crimson smoking jacket and pale yellow cravat, I pondered its philosophical weight while sipping softly at the edges of my evening creme de menthe. Ooh, creme de menthe. Reminds me of my grandma. Okay, I was wearing an old AC/DC t-shirt and sweatpants and drinking coffee, but you get the picture. After a moment, I thought to myself, what a complete pile of bullshit that is. Imagine this. You're at work, you've got something to do, but you're dreading it, just not feeling it today. You glance at the clock, 10:34. Oh well, at least it's not long until lunch. What will I eat today? Oh, I've been wanting to try that new place down the street. My coworker said it's really good, but I really should stick to my budget. You suddenly snap back to reality and find yourself staring at the blinking cursor on your computer screen. Wow, I suck at this. I'm just not up for it today. I need some energy. Before you know it, you've opened your browser and are scrolling through one of your favorite time-wasting sites. Wowzer, hover shoes? I could really use some of those. Quick step back to reality. You check your email. A message from your credit card company. I'm in so much debt. I'm never going to get out of this mess. No hover shoes or lunch out for me. A notification from that online dating site you signed up for a few weeks ago. I'll never find someone. My love life is a disaster. Maybe relationships and I just don't match. Someone walks past your cubicle. You frantically click your mouse and mash on the keyboard, feigning busyness for the unsuspecting intruder. Oh my gosh. How many times I remember, like, this goes way back, but how many of you have actually done that? Hey, Sippin' On, how are you? I've heard if you're depressed, you're worried about the past. If you have anxiety, you're worried about the future. Huh. That is very deep. If you're depressed, you're worried about the past. If you have anxiety, you're worried about the future. That is very interesting. Women's Warrior says, we use them with morning suits for weddings in UK. Okay. Cravat. I've never heard that word, but now I know what it is. Pookie says, I worry every day to keep things done. I don't want to lose my independence. And then Sippin' says, then you must be either completely healthy or it's schizophrenia. Maybe. That's wild. But this thing made me, this part made me laugh because, or do you remember, like, as kids, at least for me, you would be chatting with a friend on AOL Instant Messenger, and you were talking about something that you didn't want your parents to see, so you would click over to another, like close the window so something else was up. That's actually funny. Someone walks past your cubicle. You frantically click your mouse and mash on the keyboard, feigning busyness for the unsuspecting intruder. Phew, that was close. Look at the clock again. 11:13. Another half an hour wasted. I should really get to work right after I... Is any of this sounding familiar? Maybe you don't work in an office, but you can still relate to that feeling of dread that hits when you're faced with something you've been resisting. Like you'd rather do anything than a task at hand. That to-do list quickly becomes a don't want to do list. Even if you're married or already in a relationship, you might also identify with those feelings of undesirability. When your thoughts about your situation have become more consuming and debilitating than everything else, when you have become so distracted from what your relationship is supposed to be about, so embroiled in the should, shouldn'ts, could, couldn'ts, and who's right or wrong, you often wonder why the hell you're still in it at all. The truth is, we all do this from time to time. Even the most driven, most successful, and wisest among us have these kinds of thoughts. So what is it that separates those successful people from you and me? They understand, consciously or otherwise, one simple thing. What they think and what they do don't always have to align. You are not your thoughts. You are not defined by what's inside your head. You are what you do, your actions. Great thoughts speak only to the thoughtful mind, but great actions speak to all mankind. Theodore Roosevelt. I'm going to read that again. Great thoughts speak only to the thoughtful mind, but great actions speak to all mankind. Most of us let our internal condition weigh heavily on what we do, but the truly great performers are great precisely because they've learned to experience those feelings while sidestepping the inclination to act upon them. It's not that they never doubt themselves or never have a desire to procrastinate or avoid a particular situation. It's not that they always feel like doing what they should. They simply focus and lean in. They act anyway. It'd be great if we could simply decide to never have a negative thought, but when it comes down to it, that's just not realistic. I know. My positive thinking peeps are losing their minds at this statement, but here's something for even those people to consider. Haven't you wondered why you came up with positivity as an answer to your life in the first place? Have you ever noticed how you are when impacted or surrounded by apparently negative people or situations? That's right. Even you get gripped by the old negative hand now and again, no matter how you might try and avoid it. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah, they do. They do. Let's see. Good Trouble had said before, so if we are both anxious and depressed, at least we can handle right now. Gosh, you guys are, and they say live in the moment, right? You can't control the past. The past is done. There's nothing you can change. In the future, you don't know what's going to happen. That's actually a good way to think about it. Right? So thinking about what Sipanon said before, if you're depressed, you're worried about the past. If you have anxiety, you're worried about the future. So then add in what Good Trouble said. So if you're both anxious and depressed, at least we can handle right now. That's amazing. Pookie says, if I lose my independence, there would be no one to take the rescues that depend on me. Yeah, I worry about that too. I mean, I know they'll be okay because I have, fellow rescuers and people who would make sure that they're okay, but okay, now I need to find my spot. Here it is. Right, Sipanon? Look at us on look at us unfvcking our lives together. No, like you, like that was like good thinking. Good thinking. All right. The truth is, it's difficult to have a say in, let alone control what you think about, especially because, as we've established elsewhere in this book, we're not even aware of the majority of things we think about. We have just as many pointless, irrelevant thoughts as important ones. Then there are those default thoughts that pop into your head day in and day out. Thoughts of unworthiness, being judged, not belonging, or some lack of competence. All of this while going to work, paying your bills, going to the grocery store, or driving your car. Many of the things I teach my clients involve changing the way you approach and look at life. But these are long-term solutions. Ultimately, my goal is to help you shift your subconscious. And that, my dears, is like turning a battleship. It takes time. No matter how hard you try, you're going to have the occasional negative thought, maybe more than occasionally, maybe every day, maybe hundreds of times per day. You're going to have days where you don't want to get out of bed, where you don't want to go to work, where you don't want to take care of your responsibilities, but you do. Every day you engage in activities that you don't really want to do. That means you already have a muscle for having thoughts and acting independently of them. As I consistently say to my clients, you don't have to feel like today is your day. You just have to act like it is. I'll read that again. You don't have to feel like today is your day. You just have to act like it is. Sure, it never hurts to be in the right kind of mood or mindset, but if we sit around waiting to be in the perfect mood, we're just never going to get started. I've come across literally thousands of people in my career who have spent their lives waiting to feel or think differently. And while inspiration or motivation may strike once in a while, they are fickle friends and can't be depended on to show up whenever you need them. We become just by performing just actions, temperate by performing temperate actions, brave by performing brave actions. Aristotle. You change your life by doing, not by thinking about doing. In fact, when you become closely associated with the actions that you are taking, something magical starts to become apparent. Thoughts without actions are just that. Thoughts and your negative thoughts about yourself. Others or your circumstances will have no impact on your success as long as you leave them where they lie. One thing I always say, like, for example, I'll always bring work home with me. Like I'm always like, I'm going to grade papers or I'm going to plan, for the following week. And I never do. And I say to myself, well, the intent was there. I intended to do it. I just didn't do it. Maybe the intention needs to start being a little more active. I don't know. How doing changes your thinking. The benefits of doing are twofold. Doing gets you doing what you need to do, of course, but it is ironically also the quickest way to change your thoughts. There are a couple of reasons for this. We know your thoughts can become your reality. And when your reality is one of acting on the things that are in your best interests, your thoughts will actually shift to match that. Think about this. Your thoughts and the resulting feelings are not always aligned with what is in the best interest of your life, your health, your finances, or your potential. Many times, those same thoughts and feelings are pulling you away from your potential. Things like doubt, fear, procrastination, or frustration rule the day instead of the kind of positive action that will actually forward your life. If you always attack the task at hand without hesitation, what will you think the next time you have something important to do? Your thoughts start to become intuitive action over time until you start to act independently of your negative thoughts time after time after time. Are you going to think about yourself and what you lack, or are you going to deal with the actions presenting themselves right there in that moment of time? Haven't you ever noticed when you're fully immersed in something, all of your problems or negative conversations seem to disappear? When you're cognitively and genuinely engaged in a practice or project, that internal chatter gets quieter and quieter. The golfers, tennis players, meditators, knitters, musicians, artists, and runners among us know exactly what I'm talking about. Athletes call this the zone. And the good news is, you can get better at getting in the zone too. Yeah, Caudle, the intention matters for sure. Women's Warrior says, I'm good at helping looking after others, rubbish at taking my own advice. It's difficult. I struggle badly with depression and I hide away knowing if I do something, I will feel better. A vicious circle. Yeah. And, there are times when I'm fully immersed in something, especially, one thing I'm trying to get back to is working on my genealogy and my family tree. And when I'm doing that, I don't think about anything else. I'm only thinking about doing those types of things. It's interesting. Or like if I'm playing a game, I will completely just hone in on the game and I'm not thinking about anything else. The thing where the problem comes in is at night when I'm going to sleep. I have to have a fan on to quell my mind. Because if I didn't have a fan on, I would have a really hard time going to sleep. The fan is what stops my brain from constantly going. Yanni says, I go into what I call shutdown mode for a bit, then I reset, regroup, and I'm good to go. And I think that's okay. I mean, there's times, I think I had talked about this example in some other live, and I don't know what we were talking about, but one of my students had said she was in a pretty, sour mood. She wasn't having a good day. And I said, I have bad days too. She's like, well, you're always happy. I said, it's called acting. Sometimes you're having a horrible day, but you have to put your face on. You have to just not deal with it at that moment. You can deal with it after. And, but there's some days where it's like, okay, I'm not going to work today. I need a mental health day. I need a day to get my shit together. Okay, I gotta find my spot. I'm still on that whole thing that sipping on in good trouble. I'm gonna actually put those two quotes together, and I'm gonna put that on my community page. Like that's amazing. Okay, there we are. When you focus your attention on the action at hand, eventually your consciousness starts to get the idea. Each time you do, you build your experience of self-confidence and trust in yourself. All of that impacts the long-term way in which you think. So what's the second way that actions influence our thoughts? Remember when I said your thoughts can become your reality? That's true. Well, your thoughts can become your reality. It's only through your actions that your thoughts actually become your life. Until then, they are only thoughts. Sometimes our mind is like the equivalent of a funhouse mirror, distorting and contorting and blurring our lives and our potential. Our minds often have an unrealistic perception of the world, peppered with interpretation, misunderstanding, automatic behaviors and opinions, and cultural and familial programming, all laid on top of our lives like designs on a giant sheet of tracing paper. Well, the more we strive to get our reality to match this design, the more we struggle. God, that was a long sentence. Oh, wow, Women's Warrior. My employer used to give us well-being hour a week because of the type of work we do, and we got extra pay, paid annual leave. It prevented burnout and staff sickness. Wow, that's cool. Cuddle says, for me, it's the cool air. I have to have cool or I won't fall asleep. I'm going to read that sentence again just because I feel like at the end I was rushing because I didn't want to pause in the middle of it. Okay, so our minds often have an unrealistic perception of the world, peppered with interpretation, misunderstanding, automatic behaviors and opinions, and cultural and familial programming all laid on top of our lives like designs on a giant sheet of tracing paper. Well, the more we strive to get our reality to match this design, the more we struggle. The gap between how life is and how we think life is often the black hole in which we fruitlessly labor. We think things are worse or better, harder or easier than they actually are from this cacophony of background noise and judgment. Consider this. You just messed something important up. Immediately, thoughts like, I'm so stupid, and I always screw things up, randomly pop into your head. All this means is that your reaction to one situation is out of sync with the whole. Just like when you whine, yes, you whine, about how impossible what you need to do is, your brain starts to follow that line of thought all the way down the rabbit hole. Fortunately, by accepting and including your thoughts as just a small part of the whole and getting down to taking actions, you'll slowly start to realize just how out of touch you've been all along. This method is actually similar to one used by psychiatrists giving therapy to their patients. That's because it works. By challenging our thoughts with actions and exposing ourselves to the situations we resist, we train our brain to see the world more cognitively. We get accustomed to living life as is rather than how we think it is. We get accustomed to living life as is rather than how we think it is. The next time you're feeling or experiencing any sort of negative or diminishing thought that disempowers you, move on immediately. Act independently of that thought. More specifically, act in a way that's in your best interest rather than a way that is dominated by how you automatically think and feel. Each time will be better than the last until your mind wakes up and realizes, hey, I can do this. I'm learning. Sipanan says, AT&T should adopt that mentality. Burnout is real. That's why I like having summers off. It's a great time to, reset, relax, and then, back at it. All right, I think we might almost be done with this chapter. Yeah. Alrighty. Action greases the wheel of life. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Dale Carnegie. That's a very good quote. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit home and think about it. Go out and get busy. I like what Dale says here. When we choose action instead of inaction, when we act beyond our automatic thoughts, something interesting happens. We start to forget about the things that are bothering us. Simply put, when we act, we just don't have time for anything else. It's hard to focus on your internal worrying and naysaying when you're busy getting things done. It's all about momentum. Once you've started rolling, it's easier to stay moving. That road that looked so long and intimidating before starts to blur as you speed across it. But you've got to put your key in the ignition, crank her up, and put it in drive first. The car isn't going to start itself, and then wait patiently for you in the driveway. When you think about it, that's basically what most of us do. We want to be driven. We think a more productive mood will chauffeur us through life. A confident mood will make things easier or more doable. But if you want to get to where you're going, you'll have to take the wheel. You have to buckle in and stomp hard on the gas pedal, whether you're ready or not. Today, I want you to do something different than what you normally do. I want you to act in a way that's independent of your typical negative or unproductive thoughts. Act on the moment and in line with what the item in front of your face demands of you. Fuck how you feel. Act. I'm going to read that again. Today, I want you to do something different than what you normally do. I want you to act in a way that's independent of your typical negative or unproductive thoughts. Act on the moment and in line with what the item in front of your face demands of you. Fuck how you feel. Act. Don't wait for the mood to strike. Don't get stuck looking for that magic feeling that will do the work for you. Simply act. Put aside your thoughts and move. It's not about psyching yourself up. It's not about getting everything aligned just right. Just act. Do it. As Nike says, just do it. Not in a minute, not after this show is over, now. Of course, your mind will always try to rationalize not acting. It'll remind you of all the other things you could be doing. It'll drudge up all of your recent stresses and doubts. But don't act on your thoughts. Act on what's in front of you. Change your life by changing your actions. That's the only way. Still need more motivation? Think about the greatest people you know of, either personally or by reputation. Do you consider their thoughts, or do you remember their actions? Do you think Gandhi or Rosa Parks or Abraham Lincoln were never gripped by thoughts of doubt, fear, or uncertainty? How about Nikola Tesla or Steve Jobs? Do you seriously think those people woke up every day in the perfect mood with, quote, everything coming up roses playing in their heads? Hell no. They were racked by the same kind of shit you are, but they acted anyway. They rolled up whatever was in their way, set it aside, and strode out into the unknown. It wasn't a passive endeavor. Their greatness didn't just miraculously flow out into the ether for us to consume. If they hadn't taken action, we'd have never known what their passions were in the first place. We'd never have witnessed their greatness or wisdom. Hey, Green, how are you? If it's not a bad day, it's a good one. That is very true. That is very true. Let me get back and check because I saw some things coming in when I was reading. Yanni says, dealing with someone with dementia is an emotional roller coaster. I can imagine. Caught rest and reset, absolutely. That is true, sipping on, but you need gas money. That is true. Yanni says, sometimes we go into autopilot. I can see that. Like wash the dishes. I mean, yeah. Or even, I always talk about my rebounder and I'm always like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Well, yesterday I did, like, I saw, there's this one girl I follow. She's lost over 100 pounds. She's a bodybuilder now. And one of her shorts came up in my feed. I'm just sitting here scrolling, and I said, you know what? Before I watch her short, I am going to go do my rebounder. And that's what I did. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do my stepper for a few minutes too. So I did. And then I went back to my phone and I watched the short. So yeah, I guess it is like, I had said this too before, I'll think, oh, with the cat litter boxes, I hate doing it. I hate it. It literally takes 5 minutes, if that. So instead of just doing it, I'm like, oh, I'll do it before I go to bed. Oh, and then it's time for bed. It's like, ugh, I don't want to do it. If you just done it before, you wouldn't have to do it now. So I'm trying to get to the point where I'm like, just do it, right? Then you can do whatever you want, but just do it. Just do it. Maybe Nike is onto something. Give me 1 sec. I think we're getting storms. It got really dark really fast. Give me 1 second. Alrighty. To turn a light on. Alrighty. Okay. I think I'm gonna read that paragraph again, just because it kind of goes with the next one on the next page, and it won't really make sense. Okay. Do you think Gandhi or Rosa Parks or Abraham Lincoln were never gripped by thoughts of doubt, fear, or uncertainty? How about Nikola Tesla or Steve Jobs? Do you seriously think these people woke up every day in the perfect mood with everything coming up roses playing in their heads? Hell no. They were racked by the same kind of shit you are, but they acted anyway. They rolled up whatever was in their way, set it aside, and strode out into the unknown. It wasn't a passive endeavor. Their greatness didn't just miraculously flow out into the ether for us to consume. If they hadn't taken action, we'd never have known what their passions were in the first place. We'd never have witnessed their greatness or wisdom. They toiled, doubted, and had sleepless nights. They worried and battled and ground it out until their lives and their work finally aligned. I mean, come on. Chances are you can think of plenty of people, past and present, who appeared to have good thoughts, but never accomplished much. That's what we become when we're more worried about how we think than what we do. So you can have good thoughts like, I'm going to do this, and then you don't do it at all. Sippin' says, I have to count down 3, 2, 1, then get the F up. Your brain can talk you out of anything in 5 seconds, so got to count from 3. Good point. On the other hand, think of how many people with negative thoughts have gone on to become wildly successful. All the legendary musicians with drug problems. All the pro athletes with anger management issues. The models with unhealthy body images. The millionaires with scarcity mindsets. We could go on and on. The point is, positive thinking isn't a predictor of accomplishment any more than negative thinking indicates failure. The point is, positive thinking isn't a predictor of accomplishment any more than negative thinking indicates failure. All of the people described above acted independently of their internal condition. You can too. It's all about action. Going out there, doing it, and taking all your negative bullshit along for the ride. It's never going to get any better, any easier, or any more understandable. This is it. Life is now, and you're never going to have a better moment than this. Don't know what to do or where to start? Good. That's your first action. Find out. Understand. Troll the internet. Read books. Ask questions. Take courses. Seek advice. Do whatever you need to do to unfuck yourself and get into your life. Get up on your feet and get going. Action may not bring happiness, but there is no happiness without action. Benjamin Disraeli. Howard Hughes. Yeah, there we go. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and never a better moment than right now. Women's Warrior says, I'm going through this exact situation at the moment, and I landed here. I think divine intervention, the universe. People make fun of me because I believe in the universe, but the universe knows best. Like, the universe giving me a nudge, get up and do it. Thanks for sharing this. Need to hear it. Yeah, and if you haven't heard personally, I think these two chapters are really good. The first two chapters I think were the best, at least in my opinion. And then chapter 3 and 4 were a little dry, but I would still check them out because there was a lot of interesting just things that seem so simple but mean a ton. Yeah. All right, we're almost there. Separating your thoughts from who you are. I am not my thoughts. I am what I do. That's your newest personal assertion, the phrase that sums it all up. Go ahead, try it out. I am not my thoughts. I am what I do. You are not your thoughts. They're just a bunch of random things running through your head. Much of them you have no control over. Eventually, we'd all like to have better, more positive thoughts, but sitting there isn't going to make it happen. It's when we challenge our bodies and minds, when we experience, when we face our fears, when we accomplish, even when we fail, that we truly change who we are. You could be the smartest person in the world, but that doesn't mean a thing if you don't take action. Remember that the next time you're not feeling it, when you're not in the mood to go to work or take a significant step in life, when you're doubting yourself too much to get started. Forget all of it. Just take that first step. And the next one. And the next one. You are not your thoughts. Act. You are what you do. And that is the end of chapter 6. This book has so many typos. My brain. So the last sentence said, you are not our thoughts. Act. You are what you do. It should have been, you are not your thoughts. My brain automatically said your instead of our because whatever. All right, that is the end of chapter 6. So I might actually, it's only an hour and 20 minutes. I think I might read chapter 7 only because chapter 8 is really long and then chapter 9 is really short. And I didn't want to do just a live for chapter 9. So I think I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 7 today. And then tomorrow we will do chapters 8 and 9, which will finish the book. It's not the universe, it's your conscious. Well, I mean, some could say our entire lives are illusions, that none of this is real, right? That's just our minds creating all of these illusions. But that's a little above what we're talking about now. Okay, so I'm going to read chapter 7. Chapter 7, I am relentless. Our biggest successes are born out of discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. Think back to some of your biggest successes in life. Maybe you made a really big sale, started a new business, or bought a house. Maybe you got married to the love of your life, or went back to school, or completed a marathon. It could be anything you're truly proud of. How the hell did you achieve it? Well, You probably weren't sitting on the couch pondering your navel. What's with the navel? This guy said yesterday, he said something about picking lint out of your navel. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, you probably weren't sitting on the couch pondering your navel. Chances are you weren't wrapped up in the humdrum of your everyday existence either, or mentally calculating the sharp rise in the price of milk since 1977. So what was it? I may not be able to guess exactly what you were doing, but I can be certain of one thing. You were uncomfortable. Put a slightly different way, you were most likely operating outside of your comfort zone. Yeah, that's what he said. Pondering your navel. That's what he said. And I always giggle ahead of time because I'm always reading, like I'm reading ahead as I'm saying it. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Yesterday I think it was, instead of picking lint out of your navel. I don't know. From the nervousness and doubt we feel when we take risks in our careers, to the muscle soreness and shortness of breath we experience pumping out another 5 minutes on the treadmill, our biggest successes are born out of discomfort, uncertainty, and risk. Nothing in this world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, difficulty. Theodore Roosevelt. Seems like Mr. Roosevelt was quite the human. In fact, the greater the degree of discomfort you experience, the greater the difficulty, the greater the sense of personal accomplishment that comes after. And that's exactly why great accomplishments and extraordinary successes are so rare, because most people don't like being uncomfortable. Author has acknowledged being relentless. Anytime you're working to achieve something, you're going against the current. Often, the opinion of the people around you is trying to push and pull you away from your destination. They'll say you can't do it, you're making a mistake, it's impossible, you'll fail. The more unique and out of the box your endeavor is, the stronger the pushback can be. Why? Well, mostly because the other people in your life have gotten used to relating to you as a specific kind of person. So anytime you attempt to break out of that mold, you're not only messing with your own world, you're also messing with theirs. And the resistance doesn't just come from other people. It comes from your own mind too. Both your conscious and subconscious thoughts can work against you to stop your dreams right in their tracks. It could be outright negative. That's impossible. Why even try? Or it could be subtler. Wouldn't it be a lot better to just sleep in instead of getting an early jump on things at the office? That game on your phone is so much more fun than working. Yes, it is. And that was my addition, not his. You could overcome these distractions and objections, of course, as we discussed in the last chapter. But there comes a point on your journey when you sometimes lose track of where you are. You become so locked up in the daily humdrum that you've completely wandered off the path and into the middle of the fucking jungle, and are now meandering around with no map, no water, and no clue. Are you going in the right direction? How long until you get there? How much more of this can you take? Maybe it's over here. No, wait, maybe it's this way. And when you inevitably stumble or encounter some sort of obstacle, you question the journey at all. Maybe it's even time to turn back. At this point, when you don't know whether you're up or down, how far you have to go, or how far you've come, there's only one thing that can keep you going. That thing is relentlessness. The momentum to keep moving and moving and moving, no matter what happens. It doesn't matter if we're feeling it. It doesn't matter if we're gripped by doubt and worry. Here's the deal. True relentlessness comes when the only thing you have left is relentlessness. When it seems all is lost and all hope and evidence for success has long since vanished, relentlessness is the fuel that drives you through. And he says, isn't it amazing how these words hit us all? Yeah. And I feel like everyone is going to, like, I keep rereading the ones that kind of impact me the most, but I feel like all of us are going to hear something in this. And the one thing I forgot to do is to put the link to this book on Amazon. And it's called, Unfvck Yourself, Get Out of Your Head and Into Your Life. And I thought The Subtle Art of Not Giving an Fuck was a great book. I still do. This one, though, has gotten really good. I think this book is hitting me more so than Mark Manson's book. Hey, Limey, how's it going? Yes, 90 minutes low. Well, I hope you had a good day. It's only true if you agree. The most successful among us got to where they are today because they transcended obstacles. But that's easier said than done. It's one thing to say never give up. I fucking hate bumper sticker slogans. But quite another to actually put relentlessness into your life's most worthy causes. Listen, when it comes down to it, the world doesn't stop you from succeeding. You're not that big of a deal. The universe is neither conspiring for nor against you. And the only thing that stops you is when you buy into the notion that you are stopped. Then, my friend, you really are stopped. Until then, it's on like freaking Donkey Kong. All right, I got to read that part again. The universe is neither conspiring for nor against you. And the only thing that stops you is when you buy into the notion that you are stopped. Then, my friend, you really are stopped. Until then, it's on like freaking Donkey Kong. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle. Think about all of the things that have been accomplished in human history that were once considered impossible. If you told someone from the 1850s that you could fly from California to China in a hollow metal tube filled with hundreds of people, they'd have more than likely sent you to the local insane asylum for the rest of your days. But the Wright brothers didn't accept that flight was impossible. They simply didn't accept that thought, even though there was no historical evidence to prove that human flight was possible. Even though they had no physical proof and it had never been done before, they were determined to make it happen, and they were relentless in its pursuit. Now compare that to your own problems. If you're like most people, your goals probably aren't nearly as ambitious as inventing the first airplane. You probably just want to make more money, face your fears, find your soulmate, lose some weight, or strike a blow for a better life. Things that have been done millions of times before and will be done again and again in the future by people just as capable as you. Sometimes you just have to grind it out, stake your claim, and hustle for what you want. These goals are possible. However, don't be fooled by the self-help bullshit that tells you you deserve it, because you don't. No one does. That conversation will leave you waiting and wanting and eventually a complete victim to your own life. I'm going to read that again. Don't be fooled by the self-help bullshit that tells you you deserve it, because you don't. No one does. That conversation will leave you waiting and wanting and eventually a complete victim to your own life. Sometimes you just have to grind it out, stake your claim, and hustle for what you want. You will need to quite literally make it happen. Ugh, that's a good point, Limey. Imagine having a cell phone mobile 200 years ago. We'd be called witches and burnt at the stake. You know, even if you told someone that you could send a message to someone instantaneously and they could respond instantaneously, they like he said, they'd probably put you in the insane asylum. Like, there's no way. These people are talking, wacky. And who's to say that the people that we think are talking wacky these days aren't really saying what's to come? So when someone looks at you and says, you'll never make $1 million, or your brain is telling you it's impossible for you to lose 100 pounds, you have two choices. You could succumb to the notion that you don't know what you're doing, that you lack the resources, that you don't have what it takes, or that you or your life needs to be fixed before you can do those things. And then you can quit. Or you can disagree. You can absolutely refuse to accept it and reach for your greatness. You can say, no, you're wrong, and I'm going to prove it. The impossible only becomes possible in the moment you believe it is. The impossible only becomes possible in the moment you believe it is. We would accomplish more things if we did not think of them as impossible. Vince Lombardi. That is very true. We would accomplish more things if we did not think of them as impossible. Here's the crazy thing. You can never really prove what's possible or impossible. You could throw yourself at something 1,000 times, failing miserably on every attempt, and yet succeed on attempt 1001. The truth is, you can never really know. We never really have all the facts. As humans, we still only understand a tiny fraction of our own minds, let alone the world or the oceans or space or technology. If someone tells you they have all the answers, call them out on that bullshit. The truth is they're winging it just like you, just like everyone else. Answers? Give me a freaking break. So if we can't even say for certain that it's impossible to put a man on Mars, how can any of us know what we're really capable of in the day-to-day living of our lives? They can't. The only question is whether you agree with what you can and cannot do. An opinion only becomes true when you accept it and stop acting on your potential. Yeah, winging it. And I've said that sometimes, especially like if a lesson goes bad, or say I forgot to put something in a lesson I've done, I'll say, I'm just going to wing it. Or if technology fails, because everything's technology now. I mean, I have a smart board, you have the computer that projects onto the smart board. And if there's no internet, you just got to wing it. You got to figure it out. Oh, I finished that page. Okay. My own life is an example of what's possible when you live life beyond your own beliefs and the views of others. I was a pretty average high school student, but I've gone on to travel the world and coach thousands and thousands of people. I've guided doctors, lawyers, politicians, actors, celebrities, athletes, CEOs. Hell, I've even coached Catholic priests in Ireland and Buddhist monks in Thailand. There's a wondrous, magical life out there waiting for you in the unknown. And while it's not all cherry pies and bubble gum, there is a reality that you can accomplish that's far beyond the one you're currently wasting away in. There is a reality that you can accomplish that's far beyond the one you're currently wasting away in. Blazing the relentless trail. To see this idea of relentlessness in action, Let's look at a major success story that you and I are likely to be familiar with. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold was born to relatively poor parents in a small town in Austria, just a couple of years after the end of World War II. Yet young Arnold dreamt of going to America and acting in movies. What do you think his parents thought of that dream? What do you think his fellow Austrian townfolk told him about his ambitions or whispered behind his back? Remember, we're not talking about today, where we have television and internet and smartphones and anyone with a wireless connection can become a celebrity. Back then, most households didn't even have a TV. America was nebulous, fantastical concept for Arnold and the people he grew up with, a place they had only seen in pictures or movies. So you can pretty much guarantee that everyone he knew thought there was no chance he'd ever realize his dream, and if he had accepted that at any point, their words would come true. If he had agreed that he wouldn't become a world famous bodybuilder, it would have been true. If he had agreed that he couldn't move to America, he wouldn't have. If he had accepted that he'd never make it into the movies and he'd never be a star actor, or he couldn't become governor, he would have quit. But he never agreed with the world or other people told him about what was and what wasn't possible. He was relentless. He spent hours in the gym every day pushing his body. He practiced his bodybuilding poses. He read books. He learned business. He auditioned for movie roles. Relentlessly. Giving up or changing plans simply wasn't an option. And if you look at his path, you can learn something valuable about relentlessness. Sometimes it's all you have. Before Arnold, no Austrian bodybuilder had ever gone on to become an A-list action star in the United States, let alone be elected governor of California. You can be sure he spent a good part of his life and career not really knowing where he was going. There aren't any road signs when you're trekking through uncharted territory. It's all discovery and exploration. You are blazing a trail, not following one. When you find yourself in that situation, all you can do is focus on and deal with what's directly in front of you. You just put one foot in front of the other, taking things on as they present themselves. Even Arnold, who had a big, grand vision, ultimately achieved it by taking one step at a time. He'd go to the gym and start working his biceps. He'd focus on each movement, each rise and fall of the dumbbell, rep after rep after rep, feeling his muscles flex and tear and grow. Then, when he was done with biceps, he'd move on to shoulders, and then back, and then glutes, and then quads, and then calves. As he worked each respective muscle group, he gave it his full attention. And then it was on to the next one, moment by moment by moment. When he had worked each muscle, each body part to exhaustion, he went home. But there he was the next day, doing it all over again, relentlessly. Look more recently at people like Malala Yousafzai, I always say her last name right, Malala, who stands for the rights of women and children in Afghanistan, or Michael Phelps in his record-breaking athletic accomplishments, or Jessica Cox, born without arms and currently flying commercial airlines. Are you getting the picture here? The key to becoming relentless is to focus on the problem in front of you. Give it your full attention. Become someone who progresses even when all seems lost. The answer is always out there. All you need to do is find it. Then you can move forward to your next obstacle. And you give that obstacle your full attention until it's taken care of. Then there's the next and the next and the next. By doing this, you never have to worry where you're going. You're not worried about how many miles you have left to walk. You become someone who loves obstacles rather than avoids them, because obstacles are your keys to success and growth. You simply take one step at a time. And if you come upon something that's blocking your path, you find a way to get over it or get around it. Then you keep walking. Relentlessness doesn't mean charging into the fray head first, swinging and flailing your arms every which way. It's focused, determined action, again and again and again. You're not bashing your fist against a brick wall until it's bloody and bruised. You're using your hammer and chisel to slowly, methodically chip away piece by piece until eventually there's a hole. And then the hole gets bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you're like Alice stepping through the looking glass into a whole new world. And there's Alexa reminding me I need to do my rebounder. I still haven't changed the reminder because I think about it and then I get distracted and I don't do it. So I need to change the reminder. So instead of at 6 p.m., she tells me at like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. when I'm not live. You are relentless. When you're not sure if you're following the right path, when you've been knocked down a few too many times, it's completely fine to get discouraged. Hell, even defeated. What's not okay is to stop. Because you can always lean on relentlessness. When you have nothing else, you have relentlessness. Rather than worrying about whether you should keep going or turning back, press in relentlessly. Relentlessness has one direction, and that's forward. It only has one option, and that's to keep the momentum going. There is no giving up. There is no quitting. There is no change of plans. Relentlessness is the bodybuilder who goes to the gym for hours every day. Relentlessness is the prospective entrepreneur who has been ridiculed and rejected for their completely original idea, but keeps pitching it anyway. Relentlessness is the overweight mom who feels like she's never going to get there. Relentlessness is the newly minted college graduate at the bottom of the corporate ladder, barely making enough money to pay her rent, and yet staying at the office later than anyone else just to learn as much as she can. Relentless is you. Anyone who's ever gone to the gym knows that the results aren't immediate. You don't spend 30 minutes on the treadmill and look like a new person. But that doesn't mean what you're doing isn't working. You're making progress. With each exercise, each step, each movement, each action, you get a little better, a little closer. Until one day you look in the mirror and think, wow. It's the same thing with your business or your health or your career or your relationships. Even when you don't see anything happening, it is. Even when you're not quite hitting the mark, you're making progress. Until one day you look at your bank balance or your new job or your children or your new house and think, wow. That's why you have to keep going relentlessly. Because when you're trekking through the jungle, you don't know if you're 3 days from civilization or 30 minutes. All you can do is walk. The only way out is forward. Sit up, straighten your spine, and repeat after me. I am relentless. End of chapter 7. Wow. I like chapter 1 and 2, but I feel like chapter 5, 6, and 7 are better. But I do with I think chapter 1 was just the intro. So like chapter 2, I am willing. So far we have I am willing, I am wired to win, I got this, I embrace the uncertainty, I am not my thoughts, I am what I do, and I am relentless. So tomorrow we will finish the book, chapter 8 and 9. Chapter 8 is I expect nothing and accept everything, and where next. So I'm guessing, and I believe this guy is he's not from the US. I think he's from, let me look. I'm going to look it up right now. Let's Oh no, why is that? Why is it muting me? Oh my gosh, what's the last thing y'all heard? Oh my gosh, I don't know why it keeps muting me. I'm not even clicking near it. I wasn't even on StreamYard. I was on this other page. So I was just reading off his books. So I'll just read the titles quickly again. So he has Grow Up, Becoming the Parent Your Kid Deserves, Wise as Fuck, Simple Truths to Guide You Through the Shitstorms of Life. That actually sounds like a good one too. Ask Gary Effing Anything, Unplugged Answers to Life's Stickiest Dilemmas. Do the Work, the official unrepentant, ass-kicking, no-kidding, change your life sidekick to unfuck yourself. Doing that shit, or stop doing that shit, end self-sabotage and demand your life back. And then his first book is this one, which is Unfuck Yourself. Get out of your head and into your life. And I wanted to see if they had like anything about him, but I don't see like, let me see. I'm going to just put it in Google. Who is Gary John Bishop? Let's see. He is from Scotland. So Gary John Bishop began his life journey in Glasgow, Scotland. The grit and wit of his early life have contributed to his tough love, in-your-face approach to coaching. Coupled with world-class training and development, Gary has created a potent brew of effectiveness and the ability to reach through the crust of people's lives and root out the deeper issues that consume them and tie them to their hurdles. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to do 4:30 Eastern time again because I'm getting a pedicure tomorrow late morning, and then depending on what may or may not be going on with my grandpa, I may have I have other things to do. So I'm going to change the time, and actually let me do that right now so I don't forget. I'm going to change the time to 4:30 Eastern instead of 1:30 Eastern. Oh, duh, I can't do it. I can't do it until I'm done being live. All right, y'all. Well, thanks everybody for being here. I was glad to see some people I haven't seen here before. If you haven't hit that like button, please do so on your way out. And if you are watching on the replay and have made it this far, #replay. Sinner is going to be live in about 50 minutes. Hey, Marie. You are better late than never. I want to go with you. Oh, to my pedicure? I need one. And she's my manicurist is funny. Well, my pedicurist, I should say. I don't get my nails done. I just get my toenails done. When she's done, she'll be like, do you wanna schedule now? Or are you just gonna text me when you feel like it? And I was like, I'll text you when I feel like it. Oh, you had me on TV. All right, Marie. I didn't see you earlier. Did you say hi? I'm sorry if I missed you. Yeah, my grandpa, and he's stubborn, but I actually found out that he fell from Newsbreak, no less, the app with local news, because they had the scanner call or whatever on there. And I mean, there's not many 102-year-olds. So I sent my mom and dad a message and I said, is this grandpa? And sure enough, it was, but he is home. He scraped his elbow really bad, and he cut his toe really bad. But he's home, thank goodness. So, all right. Oh, okay, Sinner, your Wi-Fi is being goofy. All right. So with that, I hope all of you have a great rest of your day, morning, night, wherever you may be. And until next time, I will see you on the flip side.